Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going beyond just the steel and concrete, really. We're digging into something crucial in LED V5 for new construction, equitable development.
Exactly. It's about seeing how a building project can actually be a positive force in the community around it,
Yeah.
making waves beyond just the property line.
Yeah, creating those ripples. So if you're fascinated by how buildings shape society and maybe you want the quick rundown on making development more equitable, stick with us. And hey, hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss out as we explore more of this world.
Definitely. It's about seeing sustainability as more than just energy efficiency. It's also about, well, justice and community thriving. LEDV5 actually lays out several ways to get there.
Okay, so let's jump in. The first path you mentioned is through priority sites. Sounds like it's all about where you choose to build.
That's a big part of it, yeah. There are two main ways under this option. First is brownfield remediation.
Okay, brownfield. For those of us not deep in land use jargon, what exactly is that?
Fair enough. Think of it as land that's complicated by past use. It might have soil or groundwater contamination, something that needs official cleanup, remediation by the environmental authorities.
I see. So contaminated sites.
Right. And the idea here is if you choose that kind of site for your project and you actually do the cleanup required by the authorities.
You're not just building, you're kind of healing the land.
Precisely. You're removing hazards, making land usable again. Maybe in an area that's been neglected, it's turning a negative into a positive. And you get a team points for it. 2 points, actually.
And does it count if a developer voluntarily cleans up a site that fits the description, even if not formally mandated at that moment?
Yes, as long as they get confirmation from the relevant authority that the cleanup meets their standards. It encourages proactive revitalization.
Makes sense. Revitalizing neglected spots. What's the other path under priority sites?
That one's called historic location. This gives you 1 point.
Okay, historic. So building within an established historic district.
Yeah, basically. If the local government has officially designated an area as historic, maybe through its growth plan, locating your project there can earn a point. It helps preserve heritage and uses existing infrastructure.
So bringing new life while respecting the old?
Yeah.
And could a project do both? Like a brand field in a historic district?
Absolutely. They aren't mutually exclusive. You could potentially stack those points.
Interesting. Okay, let's move on. The second big option seems really focused on people. Housing and jobs proximity.
It really is. It's about connecting the project to the local community in very tangible ways. The first path is support local economy. This gets you 1 point.
How does a building project do that specifically?
It's pretty direct. The requirement is that at least 15% of the construction jobs, the actual hours worked, are filled by people who live within the project's administrative district.
So like the same city or county?
Exactly. It ensures some of the economic benefit, the wages, stay local. It directly supports the people living right there.
That's very concrete. Okay, the other path here is location-efficient, affordable housing. Sounds important, especially for residential projects. Gets 2 points.
Very important. This applies to residential or mixed-use buildings, and it tackles housing affordability head-on.
So what does it require?
You need to include new affordable housing units. If they're rental units, at least 10% of the project's total residential floor area needs to be priced for households earning up to 60% of the area median income, or AMI.
60% AMI. And how long do those rates need to last?
That's key. They have to stay affordable for a minimum of 15 years.
15 years. That's significant. What about units for sale?
Similar idea. For sale units, it's also at least 10% of the residential floor area, but the affordability target is a bit higher, price for households earning up to 80% of the AMI.
Okay, 80% AMI for sale, 60% for rent. And this is only for new units, right? Existing ones don't count.
Correct. It's about adding to the affordable stock. And crucially, the project also has to meet or even exceed whatever local rules are already in place, like inclusionary zoning.
Right, so it layers on top of local mandates.
Yeah.
But there's more to it for the location-efficient part.
There is. Just providing the affordable units isn't quite enough for this specific credit path. You also have to show the location itself works well for residents.
How so?
You need to achieve one more thing. Either meet specific LEED criteria for being near transit, that's LTc2 option 2,
Okay, transit access.
or meet the criteria for being in a walkable location, that's LTc3 option 3. Or, alternatively, show the project is in an area with a good jobs to housing ratio, more than one job for every 2 housing units within a half-mile walk.
So the housing is affordable, and it's well connected to jobs or amenities or transit, Prevents building affordable housing way out in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. It's a more holistic view of affordability.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, the next option, option 3, shifts focus to the actual construction process itself. Equitable construction. 2 points available here.
Yeah, this one is about investing in the workforce, the people physically building the project. There are two ways to do it. First is job-related skills training.
Like apprenticeships.
Precisely. It involves using a registered apprenticeship program, like one recognized by the Department of Labor, or a local equivalent if you're outside the U.S. The target is that at least 15% of the total construction hours on the project are performed by people in these training programs.
So, building skills while building the structure, creating career pathways.
That's the idea. The second path is quite different, life skills training.
Life skills. What does that involve on a construction site?
It means offering programs right there on site, run by an organization or a government group that cover things beyond the trade skills, like financial literacy, managing debt, budgeting, maybe even understanding credit or home buying.
Wow, that's pretty comprehensive support.
It is. The requirement is to hold at least one course like this every month for the whole time construction is happening. It's about supporting the workers' broader well-being.
That's a really interesting way to embed community benefit right into the process. Now, the guidelines call out schools specifically. How do they fit in?
Schools are kind of special community hubs, right? So LEED gives them flexibility. They can earn points using any of those first three options we just talked about: priority sites, housing jobs, or equitable construction.
Okay, so they can pick what fits best. But there's also an option just for schools, option 4.
Yes, equitable access to resources, which is worth 2 points total, split between two paths. The first path is public use spaces for 1 point.
Making school facilities available to the community.
You got it. It requires working with the school authorities to open up at least 3 specific types of spaces for public use outside of school hours. Things like the auditorium, gym, cafeteria, maybe some classrooms, playing fields, even sharing parking.
That seems like common sense, using those resources more fully.
It does, and a key detail is providing access to restrooms in those shared areas after hours, too.
Right, practical necessity. What's the second path under this school option?
The other path, also for 1 point, is community partnership. This is a bit more formal. It involves the school collaborating with community organizations to actually contract with them to provide dedicated spaces within the school building.
Oh, like embedding services right in the school.
Yeah, exactly. Examples could be space for a small commercial office, maybe a health clinic, a community service center, a library branch, things like that. At least 2 different types of spaces are required.
And I assume the restroom access requirement applies here too.
It does. Access to toilets in those joint use areas after school hours is needed here as well. It really fosters the school as a central community node.
Both sound like great ways to strengthen the school-community connection. Okay, what about buildings that aren't schools or residential, like data centers or warehouses?
Good question. They aren't left out. Data centers, warehouses, distribution centers, they can also earn points for equitable development by meeting the requirements of options 1, 2, or 3.
So, priority sites, housing jobs, proximity, or equitable construction could apply to them too.
Yep. It shows these principles aren't just for certain building types. They can be adapted across the board.
Got it. Lastly, there's option 5, sensitive project location. This sounds different, maybe more about avoiding harm.
That's a good way to put it. It's preventative. This option requires locating the main project building at least 300 feet away from the property lines of nearby sensitive receptors.
Sensitive receptors, meaning?
Things like homes, schools, daycare centers, hospitals, places of worship, community centers, public parks. Basically, places where people live, learn, play, or heal, and might be more impacted by, say, construction noise or operational disturbances from certain types of facilities.
Okay, so creating a buffer zone to minimize negative impacts on neighbors.
Exactly. It's about being a good neighbor from the start.
So we've covered quite a range here, from fixing up land to hiring locally, providing affordable housing, investing in workers, sharing resources, and being mindful of neighbors. It's pretty comprehensive.
It really is. And what's great is that it offers project teams different levers to pull, different ways to contribute positively, depending on their specific project and community context. It pushes sustainability beyond just environmental metrics.
Yeah, it really broadens the definition to include social and economic well-being.
It shows a commitment that goes way beyond the building envelope itself, doesn't it? It's about impacting lives.
Absolutely. Investing in the place and its people.
You know, it really makes you think. How could these core ideas thinking about community benefit, affordability, workforce development, shared resources. How could we apply those more broadly, even outside of construction, to build a more equitable world overall? Something to chew on.
Definitely food for thought.
Well, that's our deep dive into equitable development in LED V5. If you found this useful and want to keep exploring how we shape our world, make sure you're subscribed to the deep dive. We'll catch you next time.